And that is bad news for the Indianapolis Colts. Quarterback Carson Wentz is going to have surgery later today for a foot injury, and he is out 5 to 12 weeks. Remember, the Colts traded for Wentz from the Eagles this offseason. Now they have second stringer Jacob Eason, who has no NFL starts, and head coach Frank Reich says it is Eason's job at this point. New acquisition Brett Hundley. He started just 9 games, but right now he would be backing up Eason. Here is head coach Frank Reich with more on this breaking news: Carson Wentz to have surgery.
It was very plain to see that Carson had an old foot injury, probably a high school injury that was a broken foot sometime in high school that he did not know was broken. And then what happened the other day was, in the course of practice, over time, whatever the years, something happens, just the right pressure at the right time, the right movement. All of a sudden, that little broken bone that was in there, that was lodged in it, comes loose. That's loose. It causes, as everybody knows, a lot of pain. We asked the 2 best doctors in the world, what's the time frame? And here's the answer. The answer is the time frame is 5 to 12 weeks. That's the time frame for this injury. That's a big range, okay? And there's no way to know where you're going to fall in that continuum until you get into the rehab process. Now, obviously, we're optimistic and hopeful that we can be on the front end, somewhere towards the front end of that. But the reality is you can be anywhere in that spectrum. Thought surgery was the best right from the start. After that initial discussion with both doctors, it was just because, and the reason, Zach, obviously is if we rehab, it's going to be fine in a couple weeks, but if it creeps up back in the middle of the season, then you're out for 5 to 12 weeks. That's not going to work. Let's use the front end and hope for the best. In the first 2 weeks after the surgery, it's pretty much do nothing, just let it do its deal. And then when we really start into the rehab after 2 weeks, in the next week or 2, we should start to gain more of a time frame for a return.
Jeff Saturday joins us now live on SportsCenter. Of course, Jeff, all those years with the Indianapolis Colts, Super Bowl 41 champion. And so, Jeff, I know that this news hits you hard and people from Indiana as well. 5 to 12 weeks, Jeff, with Carson Wentz. I mean, that's a really big window. Your reaction to today's news?
If you can listen closely, you'll hear my heart breaking, Sage. This hurts me. Oh, listen, you know I'm a Colts fan. Like, I don't hide it. I want them. I always want them to be successful. I'm always going to be a Colt, but this is pretty tough news. And again, I'm with Frank. You know, you hope that it's on the 5 weeks, but if it's a 12-week type injury, this really sets the Colts back. I mean, you think honestly, in the first 5 weeks of the season, they played 2 NFC teams to open it up. Then they got the Titans, the Dolphins, and the Ravens. Those 3 games, you know, an in-division opponent and then 2 AFC playoff teams. Like, you got to win. Like, those are games you got to win, right? Those are huge. They're impactful for the playoffs. That's where the Colts want to be. Obviously, they had an opportunity to beat the Bills last year in the playoffs. It didn't come to fruition. This team was really poised and kind of under the radar to make not only a playoff push, but maybe contend. And I think from their perspective, they thought they were the favorite in the AFC South. Without Carson Wentz, they are not in that conversation. So you're hoping you get him back sooner rather than later.
So I want to talk to you in a second a little bit more about what to expect from the Indianapolis Colts. But as far as Carson Wentz is concerned, I mean, obviously it did not end well in Philly for him, not at all the way he or the team wanted.
Right.
And this was his fresh start, his clean slate with the guy that he wanted to work with, his former OC in Philadelphia, Colts head coach Frank Reich. So mentally, how concerned are you about Carson Wentz just being able to deal with this much more adversity?
Well, I think the one thing, you know, we always hear, you know, availability is the greatest ability in the NFL, right? You got to be available, and Carson Wentz throughout his career has really not been, right? He's been injured. I do think the one thing that benefits Carson is being in Indianapolis. Frank Reich is extremely patient, and so is Chris Ballard, the GM, right? Like, they have great patience with players, with development. They trust the process, so you don't ever feel like you're in a hurry whenever you have conversation with them. So I think from Carson's perspective, he's in the best environment. He won't have any pressure. Guys will, they'll talk to him. They'll continue to to try to feature him in meetings and get him and bring him along as much as possible, even being injured, understanding it'll be his job once he comes back. So I think it's best case scenario for Carson Wentz not to feel that pressure, Sage, that you're referring to. Like if he were in Philly, I mean, good gracious, right? He'd be getting crushed. I think he's in the best place possible, but still, this is very disappointing for the Colts football team at this point.
Yeah, benched last year in Philly in favor of Jalen Hurts, the youngster. And again, to your point about the injuries, 5 NFL seasons, he's only had 2 full seasons he's been able to play. He, again, has not been able to stay healthy.
Right.
So when you look ahead now to the 2021 season, Jacob Eason, Frank Reich said that he is their starter. Jacob Eason has not taken a single snap in the NFL. 4th-round pick last year out of the University of Washington. They did bring in Brett Hundley over the weekend, and they drafted Sam Ehlinger, of course, just a couple of months ago. So what you say what about the Colts' chances with basically a rookie under center?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, Jade. They have a brutal schedule the first 5 weeks, and so I think rookie, Hundley, you name it. I think all those guys will end up struggling with the front 5. Of the beginning of the Colts season. It is a true gauntlet, so I think it's uphill battle. It'll be interesting for me to see if Chris Ballard decides to bring in a veteran or maybe possibly trade for a veteran to bring him in. Again, that would put pressure back on Carson Wentz, so not sure they want to do that. It is a very difficult situation for not only Carson Wentz, but really the Colts organization as a whole of how to balance this team, because the truth is this is a team poised to make a run. Their offensive line is legitimate. Their running backs are fantastic. They have a very strong defense. This team is built to win now. So it's how patient will Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay, the owner, be with this Carson Wentz injury.
Yeah, timing is everything, too. And don't you have Phillip Rivers' number? I know he's enjoying coaching high school down there in Louisiana or somewhere, but maybe as far as a veteran presence. So we'll see. And maybe it's on the short end of this, too. Maybe it's closer to 5 weeks than 12 weeks, and who knows, because then there'll be a lot more football left to play. Jeff Saturday, thank you for sharing your insight.
That's what I'm hoping, Sage.
I know. Me, too. Fingers crossed. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, from Carson Wentz's current team to his former one, the Eagles are going to be without their rookie wideout Devontae Smith for 2 to 3 weeks because of an MCL strain. That, according to Adam Schefter. Smith was injured in practice Saturday night, had an MRI Sunday that revealed the injury. Philly traded up to take the Heisman winner with the 10th pick in the draft. To baseball now. A lot changed to top the AL East this weekend. The Rays started their 3-game set with the Red Sox 1.5 games back. Entering Sunday night's game, the Rays were leapfrogging Boston into first place. Brett Phillips, backup outfielder, hoping to get some PT talk.
I talked to Coach, and he said if we put up 15 runs or more, he's going to get me in this game today. Okay, so I need you to focus, put about 7 to 10 RBIs up for me, so they can. My mom, she's watching back home. She can watch me play tonight.
All right, so let's start to work on getting 15. Here we go. 1 on for Brandon Lau, turning on a Nick Pivetta slider, and that's a 2-run shot. Lau's 23rd of the year. Rays up 2-0, and of course that's very good news for Brett Phillips, who now has a glimmer of hope.
Let's go, 13 more! We need 13 more!
Alas, the Rays wouldn't score 13 more, but Phillips would get in as a defensive sub. Red Sox down 3-2 in the 8th. Boston put a lot of runners on base, but couldn't get a hit when they did that. Ryan Sheriff and getting Alex Verdugo to end the inning. Red Sox